If you think about what kind of travel videos are the most popular on social media right now, you're probably going to notice that it's a lot of raw videos with minimal edits, where you see a lot of unfiltered interactions with locals and people just experiencing a different culture and people showing their reactions to a new place. And that kind of video is honestly a lot of fun to make. But as a creator, what I really love to make is cinematic productions that take forever to edit, but that can make viewers feel like they're at the location themselves. That will make you get goosebumps. That will make viewers go watch the video over and over again. Those are the videos that I like watching the most, and those are the videos that I like creating the most. Now, a lot of people think it's really complicated or complex to make cinematic films, but I'm here to tell you that is bullshit. You can make a cinematic travel film very easily by following a simple set of rules. And in this video, I'm going to break down the 10 most important concepts or rules that you can follow to take your travel video cinematography to the next level. Now, this is not going to be a video with a lot of technical camera jargon about frame rates and exposure or like aperture settings. This is going to be more about overarching principles of filmmaking that applies to you whether you're shooting with a mirrorless camera or with a $100 smartphone. Alright, let's get into it. So let's start off with number one, a concept that I think is essential to making good films, and a concept with many names, but I like to call it flow. To me, shots in a video are flowing, or there's good flow, if the shots that are put next to each other in a sequence look like they belong next to each other, and they come together to tell a better story than they would individually. There's a bunch of different ways to ensure that your shots are flowing. The easiest way is to make sure that your shots are moving in the same direction. So you could have a couple of shots of different things, but if they're all moving left to right, it sort of adds a bit of continuity and it makes the watching experience for the viewers better. The best way to do this is to plan your shots very well, so you know exactly what you're shooting and you have a goal in mind. But the other way is to just get lots and lots of shots when you're filming, so in the edit you have a lot more options to choose for and you can find clips that are moving in the same direction. Now, if you don't have clips that are moving in the same direction, like I don't in the sequence, you start off with a still shot of my mom moving over there, and then you have a pan from right to left. And then again, you have another pan from right to left. Now, let's say what I want to do here is I want everything moving from left to right. This can be done very easily in the edit. So for the still shot, you can crop in and zoom in and just move the screen or the crop from left to right. So you can go from this to that. Now, let's say something's moving right to left like it was in this scene. One way to make it go left to right again is to just add an horizontal flip. So you just flip it and it goes like that. Then the third shot, it was again going from right to left. Now, another way to make it just reverse direction is to reverse the speed, so make it play backwards. So if I just change the speed on Premiere Pro, so then this rotates again from left to right. Now, there's things that you do want to be careful about though. So if there's a writing on the video, you can't use a horizontal flip, or you'll see a mirror image of the writing and this will throw people off. Also, if there's like moving objects in the video, then you can't do the reverse speed, because then you'll start seeing gravity being undone and things moving upwards and cars going backwards and all kinds of stuff. So you gotta pick your clips and figure out what to use when. Having this continuation of movement is important in general, but it's especially important when you're doing a transition that's involving a movement. For example, in this sequence that I filmed yesterday, if I'm going from, again, a shot that starts moving left to right, and then you transition into a whip and end up with another scene that starts from coming left to right, it looks pretty good. Now, if you have a different sequence where you start with the same shot, but then you're panning from the bottom up, it still doesn't look bad, because I think a whip transition looks pleasing to the eyes no matter what, but it doesn't look as good at the other transition where both shots were moving in the same direction. Another way to like have flow between your shots is to not move your camera, but just to make sure the movements in your shots are synchronized. So here I basically have different shots of my mom walking and a close-up of her feet as she's walking. Now, one quick way to make these shots flow better is to just synchronize her steps between different shots. So let's look at this again. Just as she's moving and moving and she's about to put her foot down, it's a different background, but the movements continue. This ensures flow. And this just doesn't have to be about walking, you know. Here I had my mom throw an eggplant that we just bought in that van behind us, and I had her like catch it in the next scene. It doesn't look like there's a lot of planning, but see how I cut this scene at the peak of trajectory of this throw, and then I start the next shot as close as I can to that same arc. This just ensures continuity and just makes it way more fun to watch as a video. Don't get carried away though with fancy transitions. These are just things you want to sprinkle around a little bit. You don't want every shot to be a fancy transition in a video either. Now the synchronizing movements thing is something that I actually do a lot. Every time there's a video of me walking and there's shots from different angles, it could be from a drone, it could be from like a camera or a GoPro, whatever, I try my best to make sure that my footsteps are synchronized from one clip to the other. And that's probably not what a lot of viewers notice, but I'm pretty sure it makes the viewing experience a lot better. And you know, that's one of the most important things about flow. It's such a subtle thing that most viewers are not gonna notice it when you have good flow and you're doing a lot of work to ensure there's good flow. But if there isn't good flow between your shots, then it's gonna look jarring to the viewers. Another way to have your shots flow is to focus on a subject in different shots, but just show the subject from different angles. So it could be my mom walking down the streets, but I'm just like covering her from different angles. Another way of ensuring flow between shots is to have the same speed when you're playing back different shots. If you have shots flowing at like normal speed, then if you're just like throwing in shots that are slow motion all of a sudden without any speed ramping, that can be a bit jarring. And you know, having good flow is important not just in cinematics that we were talking about in this video, but just any sort of filmmaking in general. That's why in some of my history vlogs you see me running around all around the city, because I want to cover events chronologically and I want to like tell you the story as it happened. Because if I tell you what happened 1,000 years ago, and I tell you what happened 100 years ago, then I tell you what happened again 500 years ago, that would be a bit confusing why I'm going in that order. And you also want to ensure there's good flow in emotions. You don't want a video that is just going back and forth over and over again between like very high, energetic, intense emotions and then like really quiet stuff. And then really high, energetic shot and then really quiet stuff. Yes, you do want some variety in your video, but at the same time, you want your viewers to ease into those same emotions. So speaking of emotions, one of the most important, yet probably the most underrated aspect of cinematography and filmmaking is audio. All you have to capture your viewers' attention is the video and the audio. And people often just forget about one half of it, audio, which is where sound design and picking the right music comes in. Sound design is one of the most important things you can do. It's essential to make the scene feel more alive. And it's especially important for drone shots when you don't have any audio from the scene. Now, you can go pretty deep into learning about sound design, but basically you want sounds that accentuate what's happening in the scenes. So if there's any movement or any whip transitions, then you can add like a fire whoosh, which is probably the most common form of sound design that you see. If you see there's like some sort of event happening and you want to accentuate a subject in the video, then you can try finding the sound effect for that from a platform like Epidemic Sound or just from YouTube. And then if you feel like the scene is missing the ambient noise that you like, then you can use that. You can also use sound design to accentuate certain moods. So if it's like a tense mood, then you can just add a riser to sort of add a build up to a certain moment. But one important thing to remember when doing sound design is that it's supposed to be subtle. Good sound design is something that is not supposed to be noticed. It's supposed to look like a part of the scene. So let me just show you how much sound design goes into my videos by showing you this video that I made, cinematic video of my hometown Dhaka a couple of years ago that went pretty viral. There's just the intro scene and there's like 5 layers of audio right here. So if I play it, there's just so much going on. The first thing that's playing in the very beginning is just this traffic sound that I picked up on the background using my camera mic. Now you got 2 slow whooshes. You have the traffic noises that I've added over here, basically, just to give it a realistic feel. And then on the final layer, I have these noises of these motorboats that are recorded during the scene. So all of these individually look cool. When you just add everything together, it just adds a different dimension to the whole clip. And something related to sound design and just as important is picking the right music for your videos. So your music can completely change the tone or the mood for your video, and can completely change the experience that viewers have when watching that video. So I've been using Epidemic Sound as my main source of finding royalty-free music for the last couple of years now. It's a very convenient source for video creators like me to find royalty-free music that will not lead to any takedowns or any copyright strikes. The Epidemic Sound library has over 90,000 sound effects and over 35,000 tracks last time I checked, and this number just keeps going up. And all of this is original music that is professionally produced for you and me. Epidemic actually has 2 kinds of plans. So there's the personal plans, using which creators can use their music on videos they put out on their own channels. With each subscription, you basically get one channel per platform. And most platforms are covered, like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch. Now, if you're a freelancer, an agent, or an agency, then having the commercial plan will allow you to use music from Epidemic Sound not only on content that you produce and put out on your channels, but on the content that you put on your clients' channels. So your clients won't get any copyright strikes either, and you can use this music on all online platforms and use it for digital ads, essentially. Now, if you want to sign up for Epidemic Sound and use whatever plan works best for you, commercial or personal, you can use the link in my video description to get a 1-month free trial. And during this trial, you can use their services to the full extent and use their music in your productions. You get to keep it monetized for the rest of your life. Honestly, that's how I started. I just used a trial and it was so good that I just kept using it forever. And they also have this really cool feature. So as a creator, if you have your referral link in your video description or whatever, and other people use it, so then you get $10 or $15. I can't remember the exact amount, but you get that credited to your subscription bill. So you might end up not having to pay anything for your subscription. And if you sign up using that link, that really helps out this channel because I'm partnering with them. So if you like my videos and you're gonna sign up for Epidemic Sound anyways, please do use that link. I would really appreciate that. Okay, so that was everything I'm gonna say about having good audio on your videos. Now let's go back to the visuals again. And the next point or concept we're gonna cover is having movement in your shots, which makes your videos a lot more exciting. And if you want to have good movement in your shots, the best way to do it is to plan them in advance and plan certain movements. Now, if you don't have a lot of movement in your shots, and if you do have still shots, you can use that cheat code that I showed in earlier, is that if you have a 4K or a high resolution shot, you can just crop in the video, move that crop in slowly to make it look like the camera was moving. Another hack that I like to use for still shots, like this video right here, where I'm just like sitting right here and the camera is sitting there the whole time, is you can slowly zoom into the shot over the space of like a minute. A very slow zoom. It makes this a lot more interesting than just having a still crop with nothing moving. Now, on top of just, zooming in, you can also add a little bit of rotation to your video to make it more exciting. Now, there's this scene in my Purandaka video where it looks like I'm flying an FPV drone with the scene just going left and right and zooming and curving all around, but it's really just a normal drone video with the Mavic Air 2. What I'm doing is I'm cropping in and then I'm rotating the video from left to right, and I'm matching it up with the rotation in the next sequence, which makes it look so much better and so much more cinematic. Now, if you have a gimbal, you can also use the POV mode on a gimbal to sort of get that FPV drone look without having an FPV drone yourself. Finally, one thing I want to say is that you don't want to add too much movement to your shots, and I think that is a mistake that I used to make even a couple of years ago. Every shot was moving, everything, there was just too much going on. Have a lot of movement in your shots, but then have some still shots so the viewers get a chance to just relax and take the scene in. Which brings us to the next segment of our video, which is having a variety of shots for covering the same scene. Or precisely put, having shot variety in your videos. So the concept of shot variety might sound a bit counteractive to flow, just to follow the rules of keeping shots flowing. You want some sort of similarity in your shots so the shots are connected. At the same time, you don't want your shots to be the same. So if you're following a subject for a couple of different shots, you don't want it to be the same angle for every single shot. Then it gets boring or monotonous for the viewers. Like, having a variety of shots is so important. It's important in all kinds of filmmaking, but it's especially important on social media where people don't have that much of attention span. So you want to make things as engaging as possible. And I honestly go an extra mile to add all kinds of shot variety to my videos. So there's a sequence from a video that I filmed in Oahu, Hawaii a couple of years ago, which is like a 15-second sequence, but took me a couple of hours to film. At the start of the scene, you see me just like walking with my surfboard to the beach with a camera and a gimbal. Then you see me walking to the water with my surfboard in one hand, which is a drone shot. Then you see me going in the water with the GoPro. Now let me tell you what happened behind the scenes. I left my hostel, or the place that I was staying at, with a gimbal, with my surfboard, and I was walking, okay, let's go to the beach. Then I had to run back with my surfboard and my camera, get my drone and my surfboard, run to the beach, then film that next shot as I'm walking towards the ocean while I'm flying the drone myself with my controller that I'm actually hiding with my surfboard on my right hand. Then I had to go run back to my hostel again, which is like 5-10 minutes walk away from the beach. Then I had to leave my drone, then I had to get my GoPro, and then I had to come back and do that scene where I'm like unstrapping my leash and then just throwing it in the water and getting in the water again. 2 hours of work for like 10 seconds of video, but it is worth it. Because of that variety in shot selection, that sequence is infinitely better than it would have been with just one camera. So the next concept we're going to talk about is stabilizing your footage. So the most easy way to get really stable footage is just use a drone. Those things are amazing. And that's the definition of the word cinematic, when you see a drone moving smoothly through a place. The next easiest thing is to get a gimbal. You could have not the best hands for keeping your camera stable, but you get like buttery smooth shots using this gimbal, even if you're like moving a lot. Third thing in post-production which you can do is use warp stabilizer, but you definitely don't want to use it too much, and you definitely don't want to use it on shots that are just too jerky and there's too much movement, because then it warps the video and just makes it look unnatural. Another hack that you can do for making your videos look smoother is you can film at a higher frame rate and then you can slow down the footage, which automatically makes your footage look a lot smoother. Now, let's say you don't have a gimbal, let's say you don't have a drone, let's say you don't want to use warp stabilizer. In that case, let me show you a couple of things you can do with your camera or phone or whatever you're filming with. So what you don't want to do is just hold your camera like this and film, because there's like 2 points of contact with the camera and there's like just a lot of possibilities for jerks, especially if you're sitting or standing on something that's moving itself. You always want to have 3 points of contact. You can do that by using the strap and sort of making it taut like this. See, when it's taut like this around your neck, there's like much less possibility of this thing moving back and forth like that. You can just put your camera on something that's stable to get that stability. I often just put my camera literally on top of my fanny pack to add stability to my shots and to give it a gimbal-like feeling without using a gimbal. If you're moving or walking with the camera, it's much harder to keep it stable. And this is important if you're working with a gimbal too, because a gimbal keeps the camera flat, but it doesn't stop it from like bobbing up and down, which is the natural movement that happens when you're walking. To counteract these jerks, what I like to do is the crab walk, where you like bend your legs and walk really slowly, which minimizes the up and down movement when you're walking with a camera. It looks weird, but is very, very important for keeping your shot stable. If you're filming with a phone, all the concepts that we just discussed stays the exact same, but when you're filming in general with a phone, what you want to do is keep your phone as close to your body as possible to minimize movement. One last note on stabilization and making your shot stable. You don't want to overdo it. Back in the days, every single shot on cinema used to be super stable. But now if you watch like modern day TV shows like Narcos and a bunch of other TV shows, you'll actually notice that they intentionally leave in some camera jerk, because that's just an artistic preference now. But you don't want your shots shaking all over the place either. So the next concept I want to cover is making your shots look more realistic in post. There's a couple of things you can do about this, but the most common mistake that makes a video look very heavily edited and not even properly edited is when you speed ramp stuff and you forget to add motion blur in After Effects. It just looks bad, it just looks cheap, it just doesn't look good. It's the most common thing I see people do that is sort of a giveaway that this person's not a professional editor. It's time consuming to do this, it increases the render time, the edit time, but it is totally worth it because it is one of the small things that can really help set your footage apart. Another note, if you're using speed ramping and the shot's moving sideways, then when there's a transition, I also go and add a sort of like horizontal Gaussian blur to sort of like emulate the motion blur you'd see during a normal whip. Next thing we're going to talk about is color correction and color grading. Now, color grading is entirely an artistic thing. There's no wrong or right. Some people like it very saturated. Some people like flat images. Some people like certain colors, other people don't. There is no right or wrong, so go with whatever you want. You can probably spend your whole life learning more about coloring videos, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on that. But I want to talk about color correction, which I think is way more important than color grading, because there is a right or wrong way of color correction with some leeway given to the creators. The thing about color correction is you want your exposures to match from one shot to the next. And this again goes back to having flow between your shots. If you have one shot that's like very overexposed, then you go to another shot of the same subject that's like underexposed, that's just jarring, that's confusing to the viewers, they don't flow together. You want to change up the exposure, change up the shadows, the highlights, whatever you need to make sure the shots go with each other. This is especially important when you're working with multiple cameras or you're combining shots that were filmed at different times of the day and have different temperatures. Then on top of adjusting the exposure, you also literally have to go and adjust the colors to make these shots go hand in hand together. There's a sequence in the Purandaka video where I'm filming the guy, he's just, rowing his boat, and then I switch to this shot where there's like a drop of water coming off his oar, and there's like a small blend that I do between two shots. That was so hard to do because those two shots, the color didn't look anything like each other. The warmth or the temperature was completely different. I had to do some very heavy color correction and tweaking to make those two shots go with each other. So rule number 9 of cinematic travel filmmaking is don't get married to your shots. You're gonna get a lot of good shots if you're doing your job right, and you're probably gonna get a lot of extra shots. And when you're doing the edit, don't be too tempted to forcefully include every good shot that you have. Every video that I'm making, I'm only including like 60% maybe of the good shots that I have that could have been used in a different video, but just don't belong in this video with this music, with the story I'm trying to tell. So every time you include a shot, ask yourself, is it necessary to include this shot in this video? Don't just look at if it's a good shot. See if it serves a purpose and pick your shots accordingly. And the final rule that I want to go over today is break all the rules. Because at the end of the day, you're making art, and art doesn't have to follow all the rules, and you can break them when you think it's needed. But it is good to know these rules though, so you don't go too crazy. Alright, that is gonna be it for this video. If you like this video, please do let me know, because I can make more videos like this, but I usually don't because I usually make just travel videos, not like tutorials. But if it's really popular, I can make more videos. And these concepts that we discussed today, learning about them should give you a really good base about cinematography and should instantly make your videos a lot better if you didn't know about them before. And each of these concepts or rules you could spend a year or multiple years of your life learning about. Also, if you want all of this information in a written form, I'm actually writing out a summary of the points in a blog post, which I'll also link in the video description. If you want to support the channel, feel free to watch more videos or subscribe to my channel. And if you want to use any sort of a platform for licensed music, again, I really recommend Epidemic Sound, which is not just because they're sponsoring this video, but also because I've been using them for so long. And it's the reason I've been able to make money off of all the videos that I've made in the last couple of years, because everything before that is demonetized and I'll never get a penny from it. If you want to follow my travel updates in real time, feel free to follow me on Instagram at NadirOnTheGo. I'll catch you guys in the next video from the Maldives, which is coming up in less than a week.